Hey, what's going on? Welcome in. It is Gem State Game Day live on IdahoSports.com's YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Brandon Baney coming to you live here on a Tuesday night. We do Gem State Game Day every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. It's basically a look ahead to the high school football slate in 11-man football across the great state of Idaho, 6A through 3A. Let's bring on our panelists for tonight. And by the way, if you're with us live, thank you. If you could hit that like button, share this when it's all said and done, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That will help everybody else find this a little easier on replay as they watch this tomorrow or Thursday or maybe even Friday. So thank you for doing that. We really appreciate the help. And now let's introduce our live panel tonight. He was on for our season preview 2 weeks ago, joining us from North Idaho, co-host of the North Idaho Prepcast, Hayden Uhlenkott. What's going on, Hayden?
Not a lot, man. It's exciting that week one's finally over with and getting some good football in. It's always the best part of the year.
For sure. Also want to bring on, he was part of our week one preview last week, joining us from the Magic Valley, Wyatt Helm. Wyatt, you passed your initial audition. We brought you back for a second run.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully no one lives to regret it.
That's right. And joining us for the first time this season on Gem State Game Day, longtime broadcaster for us over in the Treasure Valley, Boise area, it is Lucas Gebhardt. Lucas, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Happy to be here. We play softball every Tuesday, so game got canceled tonight, so jumping on here instead. So happy to be here, though.
Yes. And Lucas, how many years have you been a broadcaster with IdahoSports.com?
This will be year 10, I think. I had a little bit of a 2-year gap right out of college with an alternate media company here in the Treasure Valley. But yeah, this will be year 10 since I started. Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, and so that makes you the most tenured member of the panel tonight. So congratulations.
Thank you. It's crazy to think that that's the case these days, but.
Yep, for sure. Okay, well, we've already got our first comment tonight here. It's from our good friend Sam Buffington up north. He reposted this stream for us on X. Now, Sam came in with the hot breaking news last week that turned out to be, I don't know if it was hot breaking news or not. Let's see if he talks about it. Oh, here's Leif Morrison in the chat as well. Dang, all-star crew tonight on the podcast. Legendary. Yeah, thank you, Leif. Appreciate it. We'll have to get you on one of these sometime as well. Here's Sam. Is that the Lucas Gebhardt? Also, year 10. I thought you were still brand new.
Feels like I'm brand new. I'll tell you that.
You still have that boyish grin. So,
yep.
It's a good
more facial hair now than 10 years ago.
For sure. Well, we're going to kick off our 6A discussion here tonight on Gem State Game Day by referencing that breaking news that Sam had on the show last week, where he now is saying, shh, I didn't say anything. For those that don't recall, Sam came in hot and said he had heard rumors that Coeur d'Alene was moving quarterback Caden Simmons to wide receiver, which would have been an interesting ploy. I think ultimately maybe just a little diversion tactic, or, somebody just try to spread a wild rumor, because Caden Simmons was under center for the Coeur d'Alene Vikings in a contest that they lost at Rigby in a non-conference affair. It was a game we had on IdahoSports.com. Ended up being fairly one-sided in favor of Rigby, the defending state champions, flexing their muscles a little bit in a 38-7 victory. If we take a look at the 6A standings after 1 week of action, I will share my screen here. It's going to be just a second here. Okay, let's take a look at the standings here at IdahoSports.com. You may have to make your screen full size to see these standings a little bit better, or you can just go to our website, IdahoSports.com, as well. Here, I'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, pretty good start for East Idaho. Highland, Madison, Rigby all get non-conference wins, all 1-0 to start the year. Nobody from the Treasure Valley played. They were all off last week. And then we had Coeur d'Alene losing to Rigby in that non-conference affair. So that's where the standings currently are. And if we now take a look at the Friday night flash, what's coming up this week in football action, I first have to direct your attention to Thursday night football, Lucas, our first game of the year at Donna Larson Park in Boise. It's Boise High taking on Capital. For those that don't know, in the Treasure Valley for 6A football, all of the Boise City schools, with the exception of Centennial, right? They play their games at Donna Larson at Boise State.
Yeah, they do. That should be a fun one to start things out. Capital is a team that a lot of coaches around the Treasure Valley think might be a sleeper team this year. Capital's got a lot of players back this year, so I think this is a nice game for them to open up with. Boise obviously has one of the best quarterbacks in the not only just the 6A SIC, probably all you can make an argument for all 6A too. So Boise can definitely sling it around the yard a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see. This is a nice kind of measuring stick game, I think, for Capital to see if they're going to live up to all the preseason hype. A lot of the coaches around the league, it's just because of what they have coming back, with the skill positions, and they got some nice pieces coming up from JV this year as well. So I think this is going to tell us a lot about what Capital is going to be this year.
Yeah, it'll be a fun opener for the two city rivals for sure. And then the rest of the, let's see, where is it? Here we go. The rest of the 6A landscape here on the Friday Night Flash. You'll see a couple of times here as we break things down. The Rocky Mountain Rumble, of course, is the great 2-day event that takes place at the ICCU Dome over in Pocatello at Idaho State University. Mountain View returning for the second year in a row. They're going to play Farmington, Utah on Friday afternoon, 4:00 on IdahoSports.com. You've got also some fun non-conference battles. Coeur d'Alene is at Silverton, Oregon. Hillcrest and Madison going to duke it out. Should be a fun game for sure. Idaho Falls, Thunder Ridge, Lewiston Post Falls, Lakeland, Lake City. Those are all 6A, 5A crossovers. Same with Nampa and Middleton. You've got Owyhee and Centennial playing all 6A, but they're in opposite divisions. Rocky Mountain is going to play Orem, Utah at Rocky Mountain High School. Should be a fun non-conference battle as well. And then, of course, this has been kind of the big game the past couple of years, Eagle and Meridian. They met in the first two SIC championship games a couple of years ago. Meridian has fallen off a little bit, but overall, a pretty fun slate of games. Lucas, I'll let you go first here. Pick one game on the board that you're most excited about here in week 2.
Yeah, I think if there's really one that kind of stands out to me, I'm really interested to see that Timberline Bora matchup. I think Timberline's another team that could be pretty interesting in the SIC this year. I don't think they're quite to the Rocky level yet in that pod, but they have the best quarterback wide receiver combination in the state of Idaho. They have a Division I quarterback, a Division I wide receiver, obviously a Hudson Lewis. The question for me for Timberline is, can the defense step up to where it needs to be? Can they run the ball effectively enough? Because they'll be able to throw the ball, that's for sure. And then Bora was a nice team last year, and they just lost a lot of pieces. So it's going to be interesting to see where Bora ends up this year. Another kind of game that I kind of look at and say we're going to learn a lot from this game as to where these two programs are. Another team I'm just excited to see play this year is Mountain View. Mountain View is probably the team around the Treasure Valley that's getting the most hype out of the coaches out of the preseason as we started to write those previews. For kind of the same reasons I just talked about with Capital, they just get a lot of pieces back this year. So expectations are definitely back to where they want them to be at Mountain View, and that's kind of a nice way to start the year. Treasure Valley teams don't get out of the Treasure Valley a lot. So anytime you get a little bit of a road trip, especially early in the year, it's got to be nice and fun for those kids to play at Holt Arena.
Yeah, the key returning players for Bora, offensive and defensive linemen, Mason McKenna and Brennan Early. So maybe they can test that Timberline O-line. Mountain View, yeah, they bring back Hank Nelson at quarterback, Valentin Gomez-Ricks at running back, Tyler Weaver, who missed all of last year with an injury, but he started at wide receiver as a sophomore, so he's back for his senior year. Mountain View returns a lot of starters. They took their lumps last year, missed the playoffs. We talked about that in the season preview, but yeah, coach is pretty high on them here in 2025. Wyatt, give me a game that you're looking at here from this Friday night slate.
Yeah, I think game I'm kind of looking at is that Hillcrest Madison game. I think, I take kind of props to both teams, especially in the days with Max Prep's rankings. Maybe kind of playing out of division opponents can sometimes be difficult. It always seems like the 6As play the 6As, and the 5As would come down to the 4As or something like that. But props for Hillcrest going up and playing a larger school, and Madison playing a tough team that most 6As probably wouldn't want to meet. I mean, Hillcrest I mean, this year and maybe even in past years would be just as good as most any 6A team. So I think it'll tell a lot. I mean, obviously Madison off to a quick start with a new first-year head coach, and Hillcrest with so much experience and a lot of expectation. Really good coaching, really good quarterback plays, kind of the expected. Them coming off the state championship, we'll see how they kind of start off the season and if they can hit the ground running.
Well, you're in luck, Wyatt. We will be broadcasting that game on IdahoSports.com. Hillcrest hosting Madison at their beautiful new field that they broke ground on last year. So that will be a really fun one for sure. Hayden, give me one game from Friday that you're looking at.
Yeah, I thought Lucas was going to pick this one, but the Rocky Mountain Orem game, I'm excited for. Rocky has a really good defense. Historically last year's, I think they held their opponents to 10 points a game, and Orem brings in a 4-star quarterback that's committed to Alabama. And so I think they're going to really test the defense early. He's a big kid. I think his name's Hayden Kawa, like 6'5", 230. I think he'll test the defense. Rocky's got a lot of good players coming back. I think it's a really good matchup for them starting out.
Yeah, let's see. Utah starts a little earlier than Idaho does.
Yeah, they're 2 games in. They're 2 games in already, too.
Yeah, Orem is 1-1, a win over Granger, which is going to be at the Rocky Mountain Rumble. They'll play Skyline. We'll talk about that in a second here. They won 42-12 over Granger. They lost last week to Lone Peak, 34-21. And Kawa, that quarterback you were talking about, 24 of 42 so far this year, 366 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 picks. So that's what Rocky Mountain has to deal with there.
Go ahead. And quickly, Rocky opens the year with 2 Utah teams. So next week they play Provo next week in the Northwest Showdown, which is a kind of similar to the Rumble, which they just hosted at their facility. It'll be the second year they're doing that event. So don't be surprised if Rocky comes out of the gate 1-1. They got 2 tough games out of the gate here.
Yeah, and nobody talked about this one, so I will single out Post Falls traveling to Lewiston. Technically a 6A, 5A crossover game, but it is the first home game for Lewiston coach Zane Hobart. Things didn't quite go the way they wanted to in their season opener last week at Columbia. Columbia got the double-digit victory over Lewiston. So Lewiston 0-1, trying to rebound. This is a game that will also be on IdahoSports.com. Hayden, you will be broadcasting that game for us on Friday night, so we're excited to hear your call from Lewiston. Should be a lot of fun. So
yeah, that one should be good. I'm curious to see, Post Falls typically plays a pretty fast offense, and Lewiston, I don't want to say it, but they kind of looked tired last week against Columbia in week 1. And so I would assume that that Post Falls saw that on tape and they're going to try to use that to their advantage. But I think Lewiston will be fun to see their home opener.
For sure. And then 2 games on Saturday as well from the 6A landscape, part of that Rocky Mountain Rumble. You've got Highland playing Slam Academy from Nevada. They are the reigning state champions in their classification. Highland's already 1-0 against Nevada schools. They beat Legacy High from Las Vegas for the 2nd year in a row last week. And so looking to go 2-0 against the state of Nevada here against Slam Academy at the Rocky Mountain Rumble. That'll be at high noon. Again on Saturday on IdahoSports.com. And then in the finale, Saturday night, 6 o'clock, Rigby. Pretty hard to top what they did last week against Coeur d'Alene, but they're going to play Woods Cross, Utah. I don't know much about Woods Cross, but this would appear to be a significant mismatch. And so the Rigby fans are going to get a chance to see their team really put on a show. Both those games on IdahoSports.com this weekend from the Rocky Mountain Rumble. And that's what's going on across the 6A landscape. When we come back, it's time to break down the 5A classification. We had not 1, but 2 overtime games in 5A to open up week 1. A lot of action, a lot of exciting action too. So we'll be back right after this. You're watching Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
As Idahoans, we're not afraid to take risks.
All the way. Go. All the way down.
Driving under the influence is not a risk we're willing to take. Be around to do more of what you love.
Gem State Game Day live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Brandon Baney with Hayden Uhlenkott, Lucas Gebhardt, and Wyatt Helm breaking down what's going on across the 5A football landscape. Let's take a look at the standings here on IdahoSports.com. Minico started their season with a nice win over Skyview. Canyon Ridge and Twin Falls both suffer non-conference losses to Emmett and Emmett and Sandpoint, respectively. Thank you. Bonneville and Shelley both dropped their season openers. Shelley lost to Preston. Bonneville fell to Madison. Look at East Idaho again, guys. Century, Preston both start the year 1-0. The Diamondbacks with a 35-34 win over Nampa in overtime. They had to score with about a minute left in regulation just to send it to overtime, which was huge. And then, of course, Columbia with that statement win over Lewiston. They're 1-0. Emmett is 1-0. Nampa and Skyview both 0-1. And then North Idaho did pretty well. Lakeland 1-0. They beat up on Bonners Ferry. And then Sandpoint went down to Twin, and they got a win in overtime by a point as well over the Bruins. So I thought that was a pretty signature standout moment for Sandpoint, having to travel all the way down to Twin Falls. No games on Thursday, so we'll go to the Friday Night Flash and take a look at the Friday landscape of football games. Everybody pretty much in action here. Bonneville at Bishop Kelly, Century at Burley, Fruitland at Emmett, Jerome at Gooding, Madison at Hillcrest, Thunder Ridge at Idaho Falls, Lake City and Lakeland, Post Falls, Lewiston. We talked about those already. Mountain Home at Minico, our first conference game, guys. Nothing like a week 2 conference game. Mountain Home and Minico in the Great Basin Conference. Caldwell's going to play Moscow, Nampa, and Middleton. Pocatello hosting Skyview. You've got Preston taking on Blackfoot. Ridgeview and Canyon Ridge. Shelley will play Star Valley, Wyoming. And then Twin Falls hosting Valley View. Pretty good slate of games here for Friday night. Wyatt, I'll let you go first here. Give me the 5A game you're most excited to see here in week 2.
I think I'm going to go with Twin Falls hosting Valley View. I was actually at the Twin Falls Sandpoint game. It was a really good game. I think, so Twin Falls jumped out early. They were, played really well in the first half. Sandpoint just really came on in the second half and played really well, scored at the end just to put it into overtime. Stopped them on the 6-inch line to prevent the 2-point conversion. Twin went for 2, didn't get it. Sandpoint won. So I just look at that. I was pretty impressed with Twin Falls. I thought they looked pretty good. And Valley View is one of those teams I think is a dark horse team. A lot of people have been talking about the teams like Blackfoot. I think Valley View is right in there as well. Shea McClellan really have those guys kind of running and going. Really tough physical football. That's the same kind of physical football that Coring teaches over at Twin Falls. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I think their styles are going to mesh pretty well for a pretty entertaining game. I could see it being a 14-7 game. I could see it being a 35-28 game. So I think that's the game I'm looking forward to. Really going to be a lot of really good football players, some explosive plays, some hard hits. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, got him a must-win for Twin Falls here early on this year as well after falling to Sandpoint by 1 in overtime last week. Hayden, give me the 5A game you're most excited to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of bounce off Wyatt with that, and I think I'm going to go Sandpoint Teton. That's a game that's going to be fun. Or do you not even have that game pulled up on there?
Well, here, so real quick, two Saturday games. Skyline is going to play Granger. That's Utah, not Granger, Washington, at the Rocky Mountain Rumble inside the ICCU Dome. And then Sandpoint, second week in a row. They're heading to Teton for a 4:00 kickoff on Saturday. So there's your Sandpoint Teton Saturday.
I'll do 2 then. So yeah, Sandpoint Teton, that 500-mile road trip one way for Sandpoints. I just want to see if they can do it again. That's just the ultimate road dog. I don't know. Not a lot of teams can do that. And if they could do that two weeks in a row, I know Teton, they won last week against Eklo. They're trying to, have a good season this year. That's a game I'm excited for. And then also Lakeland and Lake City. That's a game that Lake City, I think, needs to win. They haven't beat Lakeland in like 3 or 4 years. If that's a good win for them, if they could pull it off against Lakeland and put them in a really good spot in the 6A ranks with, Coeur d'Alene dropping a game, that'd be a huge win for the Byron Hout program.
Yeah, we talked about this in the season preview. Lake City went 4-5 last year and basically was the first team out of the 6A playoffs. You know, if they just flip a win somewhere and they're 5-4 instead, maybe they make the playoffs. Who knows? So that's going to be a good one for sure. And Lakeland started strong with that win over Bonners Ferry. Certainly. Here's our good friend Max Oswald from the Bonner County Daily Bee in the chat, guys. Sandpoint's Brock Yarbrough, 14 catches for 150 yards, just a junior. Whoa. Sandpoint Teton should be a good one. And yeah, we talked about this high-flying offense for Sandpoint. Braden Buckout back at quarterback. They've got Maverick Gomez, the state 200-meter champ, at wide receiver as well. Some good linemen. So, yeah, Sandpoint Teton should be a fun one for sure. Yeah. Lucas, go ahead.
When I was watching that game, there was a guy I was there with, and he was like, "Hey, maybe someone should cover him." That was the conversation. But it just seemed like, I mean, they'd roll one way, they'd roll the other way, and it seems like it was just he was like, I mean, he was just always there. I think he kind of always find that soft spot in the zone, and it really truly was pretty impressive. I mean, he was seemingly always open.
Okay, here's the question, Wyatt, since you were there, and maybe you don't know, but Twin Falls obviously has, I think, the best cover corner in the state, Dalton Carter. Does he just stay to one side of the field? Do they have him move around if it's a certain guy?
Yeah, he definitely moved around a little bit. They seem to have him a little bit more at safety than at corner, where he kind of was previously, I think, in previous years. And he played. He just kind of was over the top. That I think. With the speedy receivers from Sandpoint kind of taking the top off, he kind of ran with that and had to cover that. And then it seemed like that undercutting 10-yard out was what, he was catching him on. And so he'd come down and he laid a couple really good licks on a couple kids. But I mean, he was always coming from depth. They were really doing a good job clearing him out and then forcing the underneath throw.
Yeah. Okay. Good scouting report there from Wyatt Helm in Twin Falls for sure. Lucas, give me the 5A game you're most excited about here.
Well, you guys kind of took mine. I was going to go Twin Falls Valley View. And look, I've been on the Valley View bandwagon since last year. I love this Valley View team. They got the best running back in the state. They have a really underrated defense. Last year, Valley View had the best scoring defense in 5A last year was Valley View. And they returned most of those pieces this year. Valley View could be a really dangerous team in 5A. And I just think you guys kind of touched on it. They're very under the radar right now, but they have a lot of the pieces there. Twin Falls could easily be 0-2 when we're coming back on this show next week. And Twin Falls was picked to win their district and their conference this year. But I'll bounce up to a different one since we already kind of touched on that one. I'll go Fruitland and Emmett. I know this is a 5A, 4A game, so we could touch on it in either segment here, but Fruitland's a really good 4A team. And Fruitland is a team that I think can punch above its weight class a little bit. They have a junior quarterback who's now a 3-year starter in Tyler Vidlac. They also have probably the best offensive tackle and is the highest rated recruit in Idaho right now, Kelvin Oldbody, who's going to play at Utah next year. So I especially with this matchup with the run heavy Emmett team, I think this is a game Fruitland can win. And so I think Fruitland they'll be right there at the end in the 4A state playoff run. Emmett is, Emmett, they play hard-nosed defense. They're kind of the same team for the most part every year, kind of that middle-of-the-road 5A SIC team. But that's a game that I think Fruitland can go out and win. So that's going to be a game that I'll be watching.
Yeah, and Emmett, of course, got that nice win to start off last week, 1-0, having to basically adjust their offense after Jack Spanuelos, the guy they were counting on at quarterback, got injured in the summer. So here's Joel Richardson from the East Idaho Prepcast in the chat. Really, boys, best game is Hillcrest versus Madison, and not because I'm an East Idaho guy, defending 5A champs, playing a team that made huge strides last year. Very important to see how these two start the season. Joel, we already talked about it in our 6A breakdown.
Rewind.
So I'll take dibs. I was the one that I saw that. That was a juicy matchup. I think really, it'll be fun.
Yep. So, Joel, you can go back and replay our 6A segment where we talked about that game a little more. But, yes, Madison's got some big offensive linemen. Hillcrest had 8 guys named to our preseason all-state team. We did that for the first time this year. I got a couple texts. Really? 8 guys from Hillcrest? I think the gap, and I think this will play out. I've seen it with Rigby a little bit. I've seen it with Hillcrest, certainly. The talent gap between the defending champions and everybody else that's trying to get there appears to be made to me a little wider this year than maybe in years past. So we'll see if anybody can close the gap on some of those premier power teams, 6A, 5A, 4A, certainly. Joel says, yeah, just hopped on. Sorry. Hey, it's all good, Joel. That's why we're here. So I will single out a couple of things that stood out to me. I think Preston hosting Blackfoot. I've had several coaches tell me Blackfoot could be a really sneaky team this year. Keep an eye out. They got a couple transfers in from Shelley, including Kean Monahan, best offensive tackle in the conference over there. They bring back a lot of good running backs from last year as well. So, Blackfoot is a team certainly to keep an eye on. Preston started the season 1-0 with a win over Shelley last week, and Preston is the defending champions from District 5. Can they keep it going with a new quarterback and an entirely new coaching staff? We'll see. The other game I want to spotlight is Burley hosting Century. This is a game we're going to get to the end of the year, and 16 teams make the playoffs in 5A football. And the last couple of years, Burley and Century have kind of been hanging out around that cut line, right there. Are they going to make it in? Are they going to make it out? Century's just missed out a couple of times. Burley has just snuck in once or twice. I think this is going to be a pivotal game in shaping the 6A playoff field this year. The winner of this will have a significant leg up in the Max Prep rankings, especially if it's Century and they can start 2-0. That would be a big feather in their cap for Coach Ryan Fleischman, who's trying to work with the lowest numbers in the Pocatello School District, student enrollment wise. So that to me is a sneaky game that will have major playoff implications down the line.
And with that, Brandon, I just, you look back to that Century win over Nampa and see like how cool is that in comparison as the season goes on. Does Nampa upset a couple of those teams? Do they get a Valley View, and that increases the ranking for Century? Because I just see that because I guarantee you Nampa upsets somebody, whether it's an Emmett or a Valley or they beat someone maybe they're not supposed to beat. And so again, if that's a great win for Century, or if Burley beats Century and then they had beaten a Nampa, or all those kind of trickle down effects and stuff. I think you're exactly right. I think that is a good sneaky game.
Yeah,
that's a good point. And Napa, sorry to interrupt, Napa's got some pieces back this year too. They were kind of an under the radar team in the SIC too. So for Century to beat them and then have another winnable game here for Burley. So I mean, we could be talking about Century starting 2-0, which would be a huge step forward for that program.
Yeah. I still think Napa's going to be a good team this year. I think Century is just better than maybe we all thought. So Joel says, yeah, 2-0 Century. Been a long time pulling for Century. A lot of people in the Gate City are for sure. Here's one. We didn't talk about this game much, but Brody Clark in the chat says Mountain Home has a real chance to beat Minico. We'll see. Minico has to replace, I think it's 17 or 18 starters from last year. Coach Sherm Blaser said basically we got to learn and we got to do it quickly. They did beat Skyview last week. Mountain Home, the player I was most excited about from Mountain Home's team was this tight end named Ben Highstand, who played last year and played really well. Well, he moved to Alaska. So, for Mountain Home, I'm excited to see what they bring to the table. They always have one of the tougher jobs in the conference because people are moving in and out of Mountain Home all the time because of the Air Force Base there. So we'll see if Mountain Home shocks Minico. Okay, we may have to lead off with that on next week's edition, but that's the 5A landscape. When we come back on Gem State Game Day, time to go to Class 4A where, the Fruitland Grizzlies are looking good, 1-0, a nice statement win over Kimberly to start the season. We'll talk about all the other 3A games you need to know about when Gem State Game Day continues here on IdahoSports.com.
Help dreams come true with the Ideal 529 Education Savings Program. Our easy-to-use tools make it simple to plan for your child's education. With tax benefits and ownership flexibility, Ideal is the perfect way to save for college, trade school, apprenticeships, K-12 education, and student loan repayment nationwide. Join us at our next webinar to learn more about the 529 plan. Enrolling takes just 15 minutes, and you can start with just $25. Visit idsaves.org to learn more.
Gem State Game Day on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Brandon Baney hanging out with Hayden Uhlenkott, Lucas Gebhardt, and Wyatt Helm as it is time to move on to the Class 3A landscape. Let's start by taking a look at the latest standings. Intermountain League, guys. North Idaho goes over. Bonners Ferry, Moscow, Timberlake all drop their season openers. Bonners Ferry loses to Lakeland. Timberlake falls to Sugar Salem. Moscow loses to 2A or to 3A Grangeville in a game, Hayden, that you are broadcasting. So I'm interested to hear your insights there. Sugar Salem and Teton both started with wins. The Diggers beat Timberlake, like we said. Teton beat Declo in a non-conference game. South Fremont lost to North Fremont. Wyatt, first time they had played since 2007. And so North Fremont gets the better of the larger South Fremont Cougars. Filer starts 1-0. They beat Wendell. Kimberly was the only other team from District 4 playing last week. Had a quarterback situation that was untenable by the end of the game. Essentially, they took Titus Osterman from wide receiver and plugged him in at quarterback because of all the injuries. So they dropped to 0-1. Treasure Valley, guys. Cole Valley Christian, Fruitland, Homedale, Payette all go 1-0 to start. Weezer and McCall Donnelly haven't played yet. We already knew this was going to be a tough conference already, 4-0 as a league. Pretty good. And then American Falls got a nice win. Snake River dropped their season opener there. There is one Thursday game this week, Weezer at Buell. This is the game, if you'll remember last year, Buell went to Weezer. All of the IdahoSports.com experts picked Weezer to win. Buell snuck out of there with, I think it was a 12-7 victory. And so the following week on Gem State Game Day, we brought on head coach Josh Creasy and 4 of the Buell players, and they let me have it. They gave me the riot act. Hey, you didn't pick us. You guys are dumb. We thought we'll use it as motivation. And so we'll see. Weezer is definitely wanting revenge in this game, but it's at Buell. So that'll be a fun Thursday night game for sure. There are a couple of Saturday games that we'll get to in a moment. But first, here is the Friday night flash for the 4A Landscape Friday night. The good old rivalry between American Falls and Aberdeen. They are less than 20 miles apart. They meet in the season opener just about every single year. Bear Lake and North Fremont. Emmett and Fruitland, we already talked about. Gooding and Jerome. Timberlake at Grangeville. Wood River at McCall Donnelly. Caldwell and Moscow hooking up. New Plymouth will travel to Payette. You've got Marsh Valley at South Fremont. Snake River at Sugar Salem. And then Kimberly playing in the Rocky Mountain Rumble in the ICCU Dome, taking on a very difficult Layton Christian team from Utah. That'll be Friday night, 7 o'clock on IdahoSports.com. Hayden, give me the 4A game you're most excited for.
You know, I think I'm going to stick up north and pick Grangeville and Timberlake. Grangeville played really well last week against McCall. And Moscow. Moscow's getting some tough breaks. They have 3, 4, 5 kids out with injuries. 3 of them are all year. Moscow's just... It's going to be interesting to see in the Intermountain League how Timberlake and Bonners Ferry matches up with Moscow throughout the year with all of their injuries. I'll say the cross kid for Moscow played really well. He's a freshman, first reps of his career, and he played really, really well. I'm excited for the next 3 years for the Bears. But for this game, it's going to be good. Grangeville and Timberlake played last year, and it was a game that I actually did, and Grangeville went 99 yards and won on the last play of the game. It was just chaos up there in Spirit Lake, and it was a really fun game, and I'm expecting it to be very similar, but man, Grangeville looks really good this year.
Yeah, Grangeville lost a lot to graduation, so we weren't sure how they were going to look necessarily, but boy, one game in, they look pretty good. And yeah, Wyatt Cross, the freshman quarterback from Moscow, he's like 6'3", right? Pretty tall.
He's
already.
A big kid. You know what Rob Bayfus said, he's a redshirt freshman. His dad, Sheldon Cross, he's the recruiting coordinator and tight ends coach at U of I. And so he's been around, he's experienced, and he's going to be fun to see.
Yeah. Some fun games up north for sure. Lucas, what's the 4A game you've got your eye on? Besides Emmett and Fruitland.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that one's definitely going to be a fun one, but I'm going to take Aberdeen and American Falls here. You know, those two towns are not very far apart from each other. They open the season with each other every year. It's a game that I feel like I've called every year when I was doing games in East Idaho back in my Pocatello days. So that's more kind of for a sentimental reason for me of why I'm kind of looking forward to that one. That's always kind of a fun game to watch. Aberdeen's, always got that run heavy, wing tee kind of offense look. And then American Falls has always been the classification of offense. So I'm going to go with that one. But, as I kind of look over the slate of games, I was thinking of maybe going Sugar Snake River, but Snake River is, I don't know if they're quite what they were in Sugar just being sugar and running this classification. Not sure that one's going to be as close as I initially thought when I first saw the names jump out on the page. But I'm going to go Aberdeen American Falls.
Yeah, Joel in the chat says, yes, Lucas, American Falls was so close last year. They haven't beat Aberdeen in years. In Aberdeen, 3A state semifinalist last year. They bring back, I think, the guy that could be the player of the year, but it's all said and done. Lupe Ortiz at quarterback, just a dynamic athlete running the football. So, yeah, can American Falls stop that wing T? We shall see. Wyatt, what's a 4A game you got your eye on?
Yeah, and just to speak a little bit, like I had done that Twin game was on a Friday, and then that Kimberly game, Fruitland game was on a Saturday. So I was at that game as well. And that it really was kind of an interesting deal. The Kimberly quarterback starter, all-state kid last year, broke his hand in practice during the week, and then in the game in the first quarter, the next kid up broke his hand on a throw, and so it just was. It's tough for some of those schools. You have one good quarterback, let alone two, or you get down to the third guy, it makes it a little tough. Fruitland came out running and gunning. They were super motivated. That was a tough loss they had last year, and they were back on that same field. So it was a really good game. Just speaking back to that Emmett Fruitland game, it should be a really, Fruitland off to a really good start. But yeah, sorry, just to go off of that a little bit. But looking at some of the games, I'll stick here in the Magic Valley. I think one game I'm kind of interested in is that Gooding-Jerome game. Part of it is Gooding last year only lost 3 seniors, the whole team. I mean, they only graduated 3 kids. They returned their quarterback, their running back, their top 2 receivers, their entire offensive line. I mean, it's kind of an interesting deal. The coach Tanner Ballman's now the AD. John Helmendaler came over from Wendell. I played against the John Helmendaler team when he was at Wendell that first stint, and they were good. He teaches really tough physical football. I think that Gooding team really should kind of contend in that District 4, and be one of the better teams there on the edge of a state. And the Jerome team, under Rich Bishop, who used to coach over at Kimberly and had some really successful teams for a lot of years. Obviously a really good coach, sometimes struggles with just turnout to the football program. They have a really good soccer program. But you can't really count out a Rich Bishop team. He's always kind of got a trick under his sleeve. He's going to put athletes in space and have them make plays. So, I think it'll be a good game. I'm curious to see how Gooding looks and how quick they can get out from under that first-year head coach.
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun one for sure. Gooding and Jerome. John Helmendaler sure can coach. He does a pretty good job taking programs that have struggled historically. I'm thinking like Columbia. He took Columbia to the playoffs. Wendell. So he does a good job of taking those programs that haven't tasted that postseason, for a while, and does a pretty good job of getting them there. Yeah, the Kimberly deal. So McCray Bruning, all-state quarterback, he's hurt in practice. I think he was playing wide receiver a little bit on Saturday.
Yeah, he had a big old club on his hand.
Yeah, we had that game on IdahoSports.com. And then the backup QB, the name is escaping me, Wyatt. I can't remember.
Gunnar Beckstead.
Yeah, Gunnar Beckstead. He gets hurt, breaks his finger on the follow-through as he's throwing it, basically.
Yeah,
and
there's a pretty cool picture of him where you can see his hand hitting the defender, and you see the finger kind of like a little lightning bolt, like it's going this way instead of, so.
I got that picture. So our broadcaster who did that game Saturday was Dallin Fryer for IdahoSports.com. I got a picture of that. And then he had a picture of the x-ray of his hand. Yeah. I'm like, how did you get that? What are you, Adam Schefter? Like, where did you get this kid's x-ray from? But he texted that to me and I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. So then the third string quarterback is a sophomore named Al Santos, but he had used up all of his quarters already playing JV football. So you get basically 5 quarters between JV and varsity.
And they played the right before, and so you only get 4 for a day. So he played all 4 for that day, and so then he didn't even suit up. He wasn't even available, I don't think.
Yeah, and so then they take Titus Osterman from wide receiver and put him at quarterback, and he threw like a 75-yard touchdown. So I mean, it wasn't all bad, but I mean, not ideal for Kimberly certainly. But it'll be interesting to see, how they do against a very tough Layton Christian team. And we'll see who's under center for that game as well on IdahoSports.com. Should be fun. The game I'm going to hone in on, guys, is Bear Lake and North Fremont. This is a Bear Lake team that had to move up from 3A to 4A football last year. They went 2-6 as one of the smallest schools in the classification. They were young, though. They had a lot of young guys take their lumps. And so this is a team that people are kind of bullish on this year over in District 5, Bear Lake. Jack Helm is back at quarterback. Caden Anderson returns at wide receiver. And there is a kid that's going to be popping up on radars here, tight end, defensive end named Brox Birch. He's a big, 6-foot+ kid. He's put on 30 pounds of muscle over the offseason. He plays basketball, can jump out of the gym. It's a name to keep an eye on. Brox Birch at Bear Lake this year, tight end, defensive end. So we know North Fremont's pretty good. They just beat South Fremont. Can they get another 4A pelt to hang on their wall, or will Bear Lake defend their home field? That's kind of the big question I have there. So here's Max Oswald in the chat. Lots of people are sleeping on Gooding. Yes, we'll see. I think Gooding probably wins this game against Jerome. And then, really the question is can they improve enough within the conference? Those are the games that are really going to count. They've played sort of a lighter non-conference schedule in recent years. It's really hurt their overall Max Preps ranking. So that will be the big question there.
Yeah, and the quarterback over at Gooding is probably one of the most, I'd say, athletic kids in the state. I mean, you look at him, he's running around throwing the football, but you also go on like the track, and he is, in state for triple jump. He's in state for high jump. He's running the 400. He's just kind of an all-around athlete.
Yeah, and that's Cougar Stockham. Yep. There for Gooding. Okay, and then we do have 2 games on Saturday in the 4A landscape. We talked about Teton Host and Sandpoint already. And then kind of a fun one up north, Priest River going to Bonners Ferry. Priest River started their season off with a nice win last week over Salmon. I believe the final was 76-0 over Salmon. And so Bonners Ferry dropped their season opener to Lakeland. So I'm really excited to see, this game will tell me more about Bonners Ferry than about Priest River, I think. But either way, should be a lot of fun. So
yeah, that's a game I'm looking forward to. I was going to pick it out in the 3A, but we might as well do it now. But I almost disagree. I'm almost more excited to see what it says about Priest River. Priest River they haven't played a lot of teams above them often. They stick to that 3A landscape. They stick to a lot of the teams in Washington just because there's not a lot of teams in the area. I'm excited because, Bonners Ferry just lost by 40. Priest River won by 70. Something's got to give. And I think it's going to be a lot tougher for Priest River than maybe people think.
Okay, we shall see. It's going to be a lot of fun for sure. That game Saturday night in Bonners Ferry. So we'll keep an eye on it for sure. That's 4A football. Only one more classification to go. The 3A breakdown right after this. It's Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
As Idahoans, we're not afraid to take risks.
All the way. Go. All the way down.
Driving under the influence is not a risk we're willing to take. Be around to do more of what you love.
Take Game Day on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account as you're hanging out tonight with us live. We love hearing from you in the chat. If there's something you want to talk about, throw it in the comments. We'll throw it up on the screen. And while you're hanging out tonight, if you could like, share, and follow, please, that'll help everybody else find this a little easier on replay amongst all the other social media stuff that's going on out there. So Brandon Baney with Hayden Uhlenkott, Lucas Gebhardt, and Wyatt Helm as we're ready for our final breakdown of the night here. Remember, this is just 11-man football. If you're looking for that 8-man discussion, that'll be tomorrow night on all of these same platforms, the Idaho 8-man Prepcast, where we talk specifically 8-man football, Class 2A and 1A. So 3A football in Idaho. Let's take a look at the standings. Grangeville, Priest River, St. Mary's, all 1-0 out of the chutes up in the Central Idaho League in North Idaho. North Fremont and Ryrie both start 1-0. Ryrie got that nice non-conference win over Melba last Saturday. Firth and Salmon both dropped their season openers. So I was pretty surprised by the Firth result. How about this, guys? Declo, Soda Springs, Wendell, all 0-1 to start. So this was a conference we thought, this could be the toughest one. They start a collective 0-3. Declo fell to Teton. Soda Springs lost to American Falls. Wendell fell to Filer. So they all played up a classification level last week. New Plymouth got a nice win, 1-0. Marcin, Melba, Parma all start 0-1. And Nampa Christian, the preseason favorite, yet to play. But they'll get it going this week in a fairly significant way. So let's take a look at the 3A leaderboard here. Some of these games we've already talked about: Aberdeen, American Falls, Bear Lake, North Fremont, Grangeville, Timberlake, all games we've already kind of alluded to here. You've got Declo hosting Nampa Christian in a rematch of last year's quarterfinals, where Nampa Christian had the lead with about 6 minutes to go, and then Declo snatched it back and won. You've got Kellogg and Orofino starting Central Idaho League play up there, a conference game in week 2. Gotta love it. Kellogg hosting Orofino. You've got Ryrie and Soda Springs, Wendell and West J, West Side hosting Firth on IdahoSports.com. Payette's going to host New Plymouth, and then Malad is at Lyman, Wyoming. Lyman is a really good Wyoming team for their classification level. It's going to be a tough game for the Dragons out of the chute here. So, Lucas, give me the 3A game you're most excited for.
I'm going to take Declo Napa Christian here. We talked about it just a few minutes ago. Declo starting 0-1. Remember, this is a team that went to the state championship last year, and this is a pretty good Napa Christian team. As you mentioned, they went to the state quarterfinals last year, had a chance to beat Declo late in that game, couldn't get it done. But it almost feels like I didn't imagine a world a couple weeks ago where Declo starts 0-2, but here's the possibility sitting right in front of you. So I'm interested to see how Declo comes out in this game and how this game plays itself out. How does Declo respond to starting 0-1? Because this is not an easy game for them. So that's the one that I'm going to keep my eye on the most. I think this is Napa Christian's first game of the year, if I'm not mistaken. So, they had kind of extra week to get ready, whereas Declo had to, game plan in the first week, and they're kind of rolling in on a little bit of a shorter game plan. You always have a little bit more time to game plan when it's your first week or your first game of the year.
Yep. That is the game I would have certainly highlighted as well. A couple of comments here in the chat. John Nunnally wants to know, what time does the 8-man live chat start tomorrow? The 8-man prepcast will be at 7:00 Mountain Time, 6:00 Pacific Time tomorrow night on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Hey, this is why I love the interaction with the fans. Steve letting us know in the comments, it's not Priest River at Bonners Ferry on Saturday. It's Bonners Ferry at Priest River on Friday. And so there you go. Schedules change all the time. So we will update that on IdahoSports.com there. So that's good info to have. Wyatt, give me a 3A game you're most excited for.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious about that Payette New Plymouth game. I think maybe like if you would have asked me before the season started, if that would have been one of the ones I was looking at, probably wouldn't have guessed it. But New Plymouth you kind of said it, a little bit of a surprising score over Firth, beating them by multiple touchdowns. That game was in New Plymouth, and that's always going to have a little bit of an effect, those traveling all the way across the state. But yeah, and then Payette, beating a, probably a little bit worse Parma team, but again, scoring 40 points on anybody and shutting them out is always going to be a big deal. So those two schools really close to each other. Probably a lot of kids know each other from each side. I think that'll be kind of an interesting deal. Is New Plymouth going to be somebody that challenges kind of the top of that WIC with Nampa Christian, Melba, some of those teams, or last few years they've struggled a little bit, or is Payette going to do a little bit better in their conference? They got a really tough slate of games with the Homedales and the Fruitlands, but what's the measuring stick for these two teams?
Yeah, New Plymouth working in a new head coach in Brody von Bretthorst, former standout at Weiser not that long ago. Payette had a new coach last year, Marty Avila, who actually, Payette kind of quietly had a nice season last year. Not a lot of people talked about it. So that is going to be a fun one for sure. Hayden, give me a 3A game you're most excited for.
Yeah, those are actually the two games that I was going to pick, so I'll settle for the third place. I think I'm going to go Firth and Westside. Firth, I was, again, really shocked that they kind of got blown out by New Plymouth. I think a lot of that goes to the credit of the New Plymouth coaching staff and the players there. But Firth's going to have a big test on their hands with Westside. Westside wins about everything. So it's going to be a challenge for them to not start 0-2. And then the other game, I'm just excited to see Orfino and Kellogg play. Seth Melton come in his first year as the head coach. I want to see what the turnout was for the Maniacs and just how they look. Kellogg's going to be a pretty good team this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they surprise people, but I just hope Orfino puts out a good showing.
The latest Idaho media poll came out earlier today. It's on our website, IdahoSports.com, on the homepage. Somebody gave Orfino a first place vote. So somebody out there believes in the Maniacs. So we'll see if they can get the numbers up as the first step, and then try and find some success after that for sure. And then Firth at Westside going to be tough. Westside has won 5 of the last 6 championships at this classification level. That game will be on IdahoSports.com. I'll go with Ryrie and Soda Springs. Ryrie looked really good last week, running all over Melba like they do. Soda Springs is the opposite. They want to spread you out. They want to get the ball to all of their speedy wide receivers. Soda really struggled against American Falls last week, but American Falls is a really good team, like we said. So as Hayden is so offended by my Orfino comment, he left the chat. We'll see if he comes back. That's the game I'm looking at, Ryrie and Soda Springs. So that should be a really
and I knew someone that was at the Ryrie Melba game, and they said, again, we kind of talked about it earlier last week, but Ryrie's maybe a sneaky, really good contender in that 3A. He was saying that they had some really dynamic athletes, some kids just really running around. One kid, he couldn't remember his name, but he caught a couple interceptions and just kind of was all over in the backfield, or in the back of the field, just kind of sprinting from side to side, catching all the fade balls from the receivers. So,
yeah. And, one last note on Kellogg, they are missing their top wide receiver. Radley McDonald will be out for quite a while this season. It sounds like we sure hope he can come back maybe at some point this year. Hayden, you're back.
I am. I guess the 900 people in Cottonwood just are all using the Wi-Fi today, so it makes it tough out here.
Yeah, no doubt. That's what's going on at the 3A landscape. And then there is no games Saturday there is one game Saturday in 3A. This is a fun one, guys. St. Mary's and Salmon doing a meet in the middle game. They're going to play at Big Sky High School in Missoula, my old hometown. St. Mary's and Salmon meeting in the middle. Lumberjacks started 1-0. They beat the Lakeland JVs last Friday. It's a JV program, but it's also a 3A taking on a 5A. So Coach Hayden Humphrey 1-0 in his debut as St. Mary's head coach. Salmon had to come to Priest River. Very low numbers this year. Keith Director, 1 year after leading North Fremont to the state quarterfinals, goes to Salmon to try and turn them around. And so we'll see if Salmon can put some points together against the Lumberjacks. Fun neutral site game Saturday in Missoula, 1:00 at Big Sky High School. That is on Saturday. So that's what's going on. Friday nights during football season, IdahoSports.com is the place to be. This is the homepage. Everything you need is right here at the top. All right. Game streams. You click on that bad boy. It'll show you all the games that we're broadcasting this Friday night, including some games from the Rocky Mountain Rumble, like Showban and Rockland. We've got a fun 8-man game council in Lakeside that Hayden's going to be calling. Those are afternoon games. So if you're looking to kill some time at work on Friday, starting at 1:00, IdahoSports.com has you covered. Mountain View and Farmington, Utah at the Rocky Mountain Rumble, Firth and Westside, Layton Christian and Kimberly, Madison Hillcrest, Orfino Kellogg, Post Falls Lewiston. And then Saturday, even more action. Kendrick and Oakley, Slam Academy against Highland, Granger and Skyline, Woods Cross, and Rigby. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games between Friday and Saturday on IdahoSports.com this week. Totally free to watch. Just click the link. It'll take you to the player. And so that's the first place you'll want to go Friday nights. We also have, of course, the Friday Night Flash. We've been showing it to you all night. This is our live in real time updated schedule. So the scores will come in real time. We'll update them as best we can. Not the 23rd. We want the 29th. There we go. That's what this will look like on Friday night. And then as the games start, you'll start seeing score updates. So that's our live in real time updating scoreboard on Friday nights on IdahoSports.com. You can also check, of course, all of the latest schedules, scores, rosters, and results, not just for football, but every sport by clicking on the schedules and scores tab right there. And then, guys, the Gridiron Game Picks are back this year at IdahoSports.com. It is our weekly contest where you pick every single game that's on the high school docket. It's really fun, really easy to play. The weekly winner wins $25. The season-long winner wins $100. Doesn't cost you anything to play. It's free money. Let's take a look. Should we see who won in week one, guys? Here are the final results from our week one competition. These are all of my picks. I want to go.
Yeah, I'll tell you this: it wasn't me.
Yeah, Lucas, you don't win unless you participate. So,
yeah, I got them in. I just didn't get very many of them right. So,
I'll zoom in here way big. Ryan Skaggs, our own broadcaster, Ryan Skaggs, 26 correct picks out of 35. That's pretty good to lead it off here. Shout out to Tegan Anderson, who took second. He and Jed Torgerson and Sam Buffington all tied for second at 25. The tiebreaker is we pick one game each week and you have to predict the score. Among other Idaho sports personalities here, as we scroll down, there I am in 18th place overall, just behind Max Oswald from the Bonner County Daily Bee. Clay Hatfield is on here. He's 21st overall. Let's see. Paul Kingsbury bringing up the rear.
Keep going.
Where's Hayden? Oh, there's Wyatt. Okay, Wyatt, 42nd last week.
Well, my only goal for the whole season was to not lose to Paul, and I lost that in week one. So I mean, it's the only way I can go is up from here. So
this is like the Mendoza line in baseball.
Yeah.
You don't want to be below Kingsbury in the picks. Lucas, 46th. You did beat
rough week.
You did beat
we
Scott
beat
Burton.
Scott, so that's all that matters. Okay, that's my Mendoza line.
Right. I did not see there's Leif Morrison way down at 65. Leif, only 15, right?
He's just got to wait for some of those Idaho Bowl kids to get up into high school. Then he'll know all the names and really outdo us. So
that's right.
Yeah,
and
I was at a huge disadvantage last week because none of the Boise schools played, and so once my backyard starts playing, we'll start climbing some of these standards.
Okay. Hayden, I didn't see you on here.
I forgot about it. I didn't realize it until I saw it on the East Idaho Prepcast and realized that I forgot.
Okay.
Maybe next week. We're going to make
maybe
a
next
comeback.
time. That's right. So it's really fun to play. It doesn't cost you anything. If you want to make the picks, it's super easy. You go to weekly contests. Look at that. The Gridiron Game Picks for week 2 are already open. You just go to select and edit your picks. I'm in here. So Aberdeen, American Falls. I'm going to pick Aberdeen. You just click the team you think is going to win. And there you go. Presto changeo. That's one free pick from the expert here who took 18th last week. So Aberdeen over American Falls. That's my pick there. So that is the Gridiron Game Pick. So again, that's all on the homepage right there at the top at IdahoSports.com. IdahoSports.com, the place to be during Friday nights throughout the fall season. And Tuesday nights is where you're going to get the best conversations about the 11-man slate. Hayden, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to the North Idaho Prepcast tomorrow. Hopefully you guys can all tune in. It'll be fun.
Yeah, what time is that going to be at?
2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Okay, looking forward to it. That'll be with Hayden and Ryan Skaggs, our week 1 champion in the Gridiron Game Picks. So we'll see what he has to say about that next week. Lucas, thanks for hopping on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it. As soon as any week I can jump on, I'm here. It's just not a lot of weeks. So.
Right. Hey, we'll take you when we can. Wyatt, hopefully you were taking notes during the show tonight so you can improve your standing in the game picks.
Yeah, I gotta just hang out with Skaggs more. Whatever he's doing or eating, I just gotta do the same. So maybe I'll shoot him a text and see what he's doing, and then I'll just do that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, big thanks to everybody who joined us live tonight on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. For Hayden, Lucas, and Wyatt, I'm Brandon Baney. Enjoy the games Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and we'll see you next week here on IdahoSports.com for another edition of Gem State Game Day. Thanks for watching.